Is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, known as Finra, as transparent as it claims to be? This question arises in light of recent changes to their corporate actions management platform. For context, Finra's Rule 6490, which requires issuers to notify Finra in a timely manner of all matters related to company-related actions, came into effect on September 27, 2010. For 13 years, the corporate action submission process remained unchanged until it underwent a significant update in June of 2023. The new system was fully implemented by November 20th of the same year. Curiously, while the introduction of the new corporate actions management platform is detailed on the Finra website, there has been no mention of this significant change on their social media platforms. This seemingly lack of transparency is puzzling, especially considering the importance of this update. The handling of the MMTLP Corporate Actions in December of 2022 serves as a glaring example of the need for this update. According to Finra's own Rule 6490, their role is to review and process company-related actions. However, inconsistencies in the initial MMTLP corporate action and the subsequent decision by Finra to revise the action without input from the issuer or the depository trust company, DTC, resulted in a trading halt due to alleged issues related to settlement and clearance. This lapse indicates a failure in Finra's own review process, as issues related to settlement and clearance should have been detected and addressed before the corporate action reached their daily list. This oversight has resulted in an ongoing settlement issue that has lasted more than 15 months at the time of this recording. The question then arises, why the lack of transparency regarding the updated process? One could speculate that Finra might have anticipated negative responses from the MMTLP community on social media. However, if the review process had been without fault, Finra wouldn't have missed the settlement issue before posting the corporate actions, so there would be no need to fear being transparent. In observing examples of exchange-type corporate actions from Finra's daily list, both before and after the MMTLP corporate actions, it becomes clear that something is amiss. Despite their differences, there are key similarities in an exchanged corporate action that are difficult to ignore. The question remains, is Finra as transparent as it claims to be? With the recent changes to their corporate actions management platform and the handling of the MMTLP corporate actions, one might wonder whether there's more than meets the eye. To explore this theory, let's take a look at some exchange-type corporate actions from Finra's daily list, both before and after MMTLP. The first example comes from more than a year before the MMTLP corporate actions. The OTC symbol was ELPVY. Immediately it begins with, effective April 28, 2021, holders of Copal Common American Depositary Shares will be required on a mandatory basis to surrender their shares to BNY Mellon for cancellation and exchange to receive one new Copal unit share for every 5 old common shares. Notice that the components of the exchange are surrendering the original shares for cancellation and exchange, and that these components take place on the same effective date, which also matches the effective date of the corporate action. According to the November 18th prospectus from NextBridge Hydrocarbons and the November 23rd PR from Metamaterials, the shares of MMTLP were to be exchanged for shares of NextBridge Hydrocarbons at the end of the trading day on December 14th. The shares of MMTLP were to be canceled automatically at the time of the exchange. This would have required a corporate action effective date of December 14th, with a time that corresponded to after the trading day. For some odd reason, the December 6th MMTLP corporate action used a 0-hour, December 13th effective date. This appears to match the incorrect December 13th share cancellation date. Here's a calendar so that we can see visually how problematic this was. The 0 hour of December 13th is that initial hour directly after December 12th. This means that according to Finra, the MMTLP shares were already canceled before the December 13th trading day and no traditional settlement could have taken place. But when you use the actual December 14th, at the end of the trading day's share cancellation date, it's an entirely different story. Using Finra's worst-case scenario that uninformed investors were somehow able to open a new long position on December 12th, there'd still be 2 days before the shares were canceled after the December 14th trading day for those transactions to have settled. The same would have been true if only position close-only trading took place on December 9th and/or on December 12th. If an MMTLP long holder sold their position to an MMTLP short holder on the December 12th record date, That long holder wouldn't be recorded as a shareholder at the end of the day, and the short holder wouldn't be entitled to the distribution. They'd merely be extinguishing their obligation and entitlement respectively. With that being said, there'd still be 2 full trading days before share cancellation for those transactions to settle. Keep in mind that there was no ex-dividend date. Also, even if the dates MetaMaterials chose were too restrictive, why would Finra remove 2 full settlement days by using a 0-hour December 13th effective date? The only argument for a settlement issue comes from the idea that December 13th was a key date from the issuer, but it came directly from Finra. I won't spend too much time on this example because it's very similar to the last, but it's an example of an exchanged corporate action from nearly a year after the events of MMTLP. The NCMGY corporate action only includes one date, an effective date, and on that effective date, both the exchange and cancellation of the original shares take place in one process. Though it appears like there's a buffer between when the corporate action posted and the exchange, November 3rd, 2023 was a Friday and November 6th was a Monday. And since it was the 0 hour on Monday, everything took place before the trading day began on Monday. OBSVF is another example from after MMTLP, and similar to MMTLP, it was a 1-for-1 exchange in which the resulting shares would no longer be DTC eligible. Again, the corporate action was very easy to understand. There was only one date, April 25th, which was the effective date, and on that date, the registered shares of OBSVF were to be exchanged for new shares under a new identifier. The effective date of the corporate action matches the effective date in the text of the corporate action, which is the date that the shares are exchanged. Looking back at the first MMTLP corporate action, it had the correct December 14th pay date, which is the equivalent of a distribution date. In other words, the day that the exchange was supposed to take place. But erroneously, Finra chose to use a different share cancellation date, and by using the actionable word effective, Finra tied the effective date of the overall corporate action to this incorrect 0-hour December 13th share cancellation date and time. Armed with knowledge of how Finra correctly words an exchanged corporate action, when you see the errors that took place with MMTLP, you get the impression that it was deliberate. Finra's justification to U3 halt was to prevent new buys of MMTLP on December 9th and December 12th. Based on a 0-hour December 13th share cancellation date, none of those purchases would have settled because T+2 couldn't take place. The 0-hour December 13th share cancellation date gives validity to this line in the corporate action. Purchases of MMTLP executed after December 8, 2022 will not receive the distribution. But since the incorrect share cancellation date was removed in the December 8th revised corporate action, and since Finra has repeatedly verified in their March 16th FAQ that December 14th is when the MMTLP shares were canceled, then why did this same line appear in the revision? Finra made the adjustment that the MMTLP symbol would be deleted on the 0-hour of December 13th. But this wouldn't have prevented any type of trading from occurring on December 9th or December 12th. A trading symbol isn't required for settlement to take place. So with the correct December 14th share cancellation date at the end of the trading day, new buys could have taken place on the 9th and the 12th before the symbol was deleted, and the trades could have settled before the shares were canceled on December 14th after the end of the trading day. I'm not saying here that the plan was to allow new buys in MMTLP up until December 12th. I'm just pointing out that with the correct share cancellation date, the transactions could have settled. Finra didn't bother including the correct share cancellation date, and this misled their own member firms into believing that the December 13th date was still valid at the time of the halt. But based on this guidance from TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab, even with the incorrect December 13th share cancellation date, position close-only trading could have still taken place on the 9th and 12th. These GTC transactions from E-Trade that were initially too late to cancel serve as proof that position close-only trading did occur on the E-Trade platform after December 8th, but Finra didn't allow these transactions to clear. E-Trade acted just as they said they would in this communication with their client from early December. Finra makes it obvious who they were protecting, and it wasn't the investing public that held shares of MMTLP. This is every tweet/post from Finra's X account pertaining to the term corporate action or corporate actions. The earliest post is from December 2017, and the latest post is from November 2023. In those 6 years, on 2 occasions, the exact same tweet was reposted, which is either from a lack of new content to post or perhaps just a desire to reshare important information. If in 2017 and in 2018, Finra thought it was important to address questions about their role in processing corporate actions, why wouldn't they see it as important to post even once about the latest update to the process in 2023? When you understand that the U3 halt of MMTLP is due to the fact that Finra allowed a settlement issue on both MMTLP corporate actions to somehow go undetected during their Rule 6490 review process, it makes sense why they wouldn't want to draw attention to the fact that they needed to revamp their process. Recently, we've heard how well received our impact letters have been with members of Congress. Ironically, Robert W. Cook's January 31st response is in many ways an MMTLP impact letter as well. Not because Cook shares the hardship he's endured since Finra U3 halted MMTLP, but because in this letter he co-signed Finra's defense in their March 16th FAQ, which, till this day, Finra has yet to reveal the contributors. In Cook's impact letter, he triples down on the messaging from both of the FAQ releases from Finra, but also he adds details including specific rules that he claims were followed, and he also leaves out certain details that can easily prove he's lying. On page 8, Cook summarizes Finra's role as follows. Finra reviews the submission pursuant to Finra Rule 6490, and unless Finra determines that a submission is deficient under Rule 6490, Finra provides public notice of the corporate action on its website via the daily list. So why doesn't Cook explain why Finra has only been able to discover an issue with each MMTLP corporate action until after they were posted to the daily list? Why does Cook describe Finra's role as merely reviewing and processing, but then also claiming that Finra created both MMTLP corporate actions consistent with information provided by metamaterials? How believable is it that after having to make a revision on December 8th, Finra was still careless enough to overlook the same issue that they failed to address? Cook continues on page 8 with a big paragraph packed with questionable assertions. Finra published a notice on the daily list on December 6, 2022, modified on December 8th, announcing that, consistent with the information provided by metamaterials, NextBridge shares would be distributed to those MMTLP shareholders with settled positions as of December 12, 2022. Again, Cook glosses over the fact that Finra revised or modified the corporate action on December 8th. How does that fit into the only reviewing and processing role according to Rule 6490 narrative? But it's this part about the corporate actions being consistent with the information provided by metamaterials where Cook is caught in a lie that makes it redundant to even continue reading his impact letter. Cook never addressed the reason why the effective date of the revised corporate action was tied to the incorrect MMTLP share cancellation date, and then to the deletion of the MMTLP symbol at the 0 hour of December 13th. If Cook claims the MMTLP corporate actions were consistent with the information provided by metamaterials, why didn't December 14th appear at all on the revised corporate action? If you notice on the bottom of the page, Cook includes citations, even one that points directly to Finra's FAQ. The part about the corporate actions being consistent with the information provided by metamaterials, this is from the March 16th FAQ. So why do you think Cook didn't include a citation? Could it be that in the March 16th FAQ, Finra specifically noted that the corporate actions were consistent with the November 23rd announcement PR from metamaterials? It appears that by leaving out this detail in Cook's impact letter, it prevents anyone from being able to fact-check what he's claiming. The November 23rd PR from metamaterials said that the shares of NextBridge common stock would be distributed on December 14th after the close of the trading markets, at which time the Series A preferred stock, otherwise known as MMTLP, would be automatically canceled. December 14th after the close of the market was the distribution date of the NextBridge hydrocarbons shares. To take part in the distribution, you'd have to be a holder of MMTLP shares, which would be exchanged for NextBridge shares and then automatically canceled. This is a description of an exchange just like the examples from earlier in this video. So once again, why wasn't the effective date of the corporate action December 14th, with a time that corresponded to after the close of the market? The December 8th MMTLP corporate action was so inconsistent that if you relied solely on that publication, you wouldn't know the pay/distribution date, the share cancellation date, nor the correct effective date of the corporate action. Finra even removed the record date terminology, so you'd only really be assuming that December 12th was the record date. The MMTLP corporate actions created by Finra were inconsistent with the November 23rd PR because they never used the correct December 14th MMTLP share cancellation date. Furthermore, the distribution of NextBridge common stock on December 14th combined with the automatic cancellation of MMTLP. This is exactly like the exchange-type corporate action examples from earlier in the video. If you pay attention, Cook referenced December 14th 5 times in this one paragraph when he used the words distributed, distribution, canceling, and canceled, but not once did he use the December 14th date. Is this a coincidence? In the entire 32-page letter from Cook, December appeared 116 times. December 12th appeared 63 times. And similar to the revised December 8th MMTLP corporate action, December 14th didn't appear at all. Finra made multiple changes when they revised the MMTLP corporate action, but the only 2 things that were wrong were the December 13th share cancellation date and the corresponding 0-hour December 13th effective date of the corporate action. Instead of correcting the mistakes, Finra chose to include symbol deletion, an aspect of the process that apparently Finra had full control, which I'm yet to see as a component of any other exchange-type corporate action from Finra's daily list. This means that the MMTLP corporate actions created by Finra weren't just inconsistent with the November 23rd PR from Metamaterials, they were also inconsistent seemingly with all other exchange-type corporate actions. In making symbol deletion, the main component of the December 8th revised MMTLP corporate action was Finra's way of keeping the focus on December 13th, which allowed Finra to keep the incorrect 0-hour December 13th effective date. By removing the December 14th pay/distribution date from the corporate action, and by not bothering to include the correct December 14th MMTLP share cancellation date, Finra violated SEA Rule 10b-17, misleading their member firms and the investing public. It should also be noted that by Finra making symbol deletion the main focus of the December 8th corporate action, they once again contradicted themselves when they said that Finra does not initiate, approve, or conduct the underlying corporate action that the issuer is taking. Finra made it clear that it was their responsibility to delete the trading symbol. By including symbol deletion in the December 8th MMTLP corporate action, and by not including pay/distribution or share cancellation, the only aspect of the December 8th corporate action to conduct was the deletion of the trading symbol. Symbol deletion shouldn't have been included in the MMTLP corporate action because it isn't Finra's role to conduct the underlying corporate action, and symbol deletion had very little to do with the distribution of the NextBridge shares or the cancellation of MMTLP. It was merely a byproduct. It's an obvious contradiction to say that Finra's MMTLP corporate actions were consistent with the information provided by Metamaterials because the 2 MMTLP corporate actions weren't even consistent with one another. These 2 lines, purchases of MMTLP executed after December 8, 2022, will not receive the distribution, and will not be quoted X, were the only things that were consistent between both MMTLP corporate actions. The irony here is that even though this first line was included in both corporate actions, and even though multiple brokerages indicated that they wouldn't allow new purchases of MMTLP after December 8th, Finra still claims that they needed to U3 halt trading to protect investors from buying MMTLP after December 8th. So Finra switched the narrative to protecting investors that might have purchased after December 8th, but the area of contention is that Finra deprived long MMTLP holders of their ability to sell to close, and they deprived short MMTLP holders of their ability to buy to close on December 9th and or December 12th. Again, this isn't a presumptive scenario from the investing public. Multiple brokerages informed their clients that this was the plan for December 9th and December 12th. If the investing public received this information, then without a doubt, Finra did as well, more than likely before the investing public. Those that held short positions would have also received this information, so it was peculiar on December 8th, when the trading activity appeared to reflect continuous shorting activity. It was almost as if they knew that they'd be protected somehow from being force liquidated. Then before the December 9th trading day, that's exactly what happened. an extraordinary event related to settlement and clearance because apparently Finra's Rule 6490 review process sometimes works only after the corporate action makes it to their daily list.